My stepmother quietly registered my viral local thrift shop pages under her own identity. There is a quiet, chilling moment of absolute clarity when you look at a digital dashboard and realize that a member of your own household has spent weeks orchestrating the transfer of your entire livelihood. For 3 years, I worked 12-hour days scouring estate sales, cleaning vintage fabrics, and building my digital community, Timeless Finds, and from an empty garage into a viral thrift shop platform. With over 300,000 loyal followers and a rapidly growing monthly payout from Facebook and YouTube video sponsorships, my independent future was finally secure. But yesterday morning, my entire world came to a sudden halt when my payout dashboard turned a flashing gray, reading, banking information updated, administrator access restricted. When I dug into the legal registry tracking the underlying business assets, my name had been completely removed, replaced by a newly registered corporate entity owned exclusively by my stepmother, Vivian. She had quietly photographed my personal identification documents left on my desk, fabricated a legal proxy transfer, and registered my viral pages under her own identity to seize my revenue. She thought my passion project was just an unprotected hobby she could easily hijack, but she completely underestimated what happens when a digital creator uses data logs and platform compliance to protect her life's work. My name is Paige. I am 28 years old, and for the past 3 years, my life has been defined by the art of restoration. I operate an online vintage curation and local thrift shop brand called Timeless Finds. My business model is built entirely on digital storytelling. I shoot long-form video content documenting my journeys through local estate sales, explaining the historical significance of mid-century fashion pieces, and showing the detailed, meticulous process of restoring damaged antique fabrics. Because I specialize in creating highly engaging, high-retention narratives with strong visual hooks, my pages on Facebook and YouTube suddenly grew a massive audience over the last year. By May 2026, the brand had evolved from a side hustle into a high-revenue digital asset, generating substantial income through platform monetization, video ad placement, and direct consumer curation. My domestic reality, however, was far less secure than my digital footprint. After my mother passed away 5 years ago, my father, Silas, married a woman named Vivian. Vivian is a calculating, status-driven woman who has always viewed my creative career with a mixture of condescension and resentment. To her, a legitimate career required a corporate office and an established title. Any enterprise run out of a home studio or a garage was viewed as a lower-class hobby. Because my father's regional construction logistics business had been facing severe cash flow deficits due to rising operational costs and poorly managed commercial contracts, the financial dynamics within our household had become incredibly strained over the winter. I remember sitting at the kitchen island in mid-May, carefully logging inventory data into my tablet while Vivian prepared coffee. She watched the screen over my shoulder, her eyes focusing intently on the automated analytics dashboard that displayed my upcoming platform payout schedules. Paige, it seems your internet garage sales are turning into quite a lucrative distraction, Vivian noted, her voice carrying a sharp, artificial sweetness as she set her mug down on the counter. Your father is under immense pressure with the logistics firm's quarterly overhead. Since you live under this roof and utilize the garage space for your storage inventory, it's only appropriate that your digital earnings are integrated into the main household account to stabilize our family expenses. I closed the lid of my tablet, keeping my expression entirely neutral, calm, and professional. Vivian, Timeless Finds is a legally registered sole proprietorship funded entirely by my own independent capital and labor. I already pay a fixed monthly maintenance contribution to Dad for the garage usage, but my digital business assets, my video copyrights, and my platform payouts remain entirely separate. My business revenue is currently being reinvested into a commercial storefront lease. Vivian's smile vanished, her posture instantly turning cold and rigid as she adjusted her watch. Independence is a fine luxury, Paige, but family stability comes first. You shouldn't forget whose roof protects your precious inventory. I assumed that would be the end of the discussion. I knew Vivian was desperate to find liquid capital to cover my father's corporate debts, but I completely miscalculated the depth of her entitlement. She didn't see my viral platform as a monument to my hard work. She saw it as an unprotected digital bank account waiting to be breached. The catastrophic shift occurred on the morning of June 1st, 2026. I woke up at 6:40 a.m. to begin my routine pre-production review for a highly anticipated video series detailing the restoration of a rare 1950s silk evening gown. As a standard operational protocol, protocol. I always check my digital creator dashboards first thing in the morning to review user engagement metrics and confirm that the previous month's ad revenue distributions had cleared the automated processing phase. Opened my primary content studio application on my phone, but instead of loading the metrics screen, a cold, gray prompt locked the screen. Session expired. Please re-authenticate your administrator credentials. A subtle knot of anxiety formed in my chest. I opened my laptop, connected to our home network, and attempted to log into the back-end Meta Business Suite manually using my secure, encrypted master password. The system accepted the characters, but the resulting page left me completely breathless. The screen turned an aggressive gray, displaying a high-security notification block. Access denied. Your administrative rights have been downgraded to analyst. You no longer possess authorization to modify banking links, change distribution accounts, or edit ownership details for this digital property. My hands began to freeze against the keyboard, but my mind immediately shifted into a hyper-focused investigative state. I navigated directly to the public-facing legal transparency tab that every large verified page possesses under platform compliance rules. I clicked on the section titled Page Ownership and Legal Entities. The field where my personal name and tax registration had stood for 3 years was gone. In its place was a newly registered state-level limited liability company titled Vivienne Sterling Holdings LLC, registered exactly 48 hours prior on May 30th, 2026. I looked up from my laptop screen, my eyes scanning the room until they landed on my personal document organizer, sitting on the corner of the study desk. The brass latch was slightly misaligned. I walked over, opened the folder, and realized my original passport, my business tax identification card, and my utility verification statements had been shifted out of their chronological order. Someone had taken them, copied them, and used them as verification documents to execute an automated corporate transfer through the platform's automated rights manager system. Vivian, I called out, my voice cutting through the quiet morning air of the house with absolute certainty. I walked straight into the dining room, where Vivian was calmly reviewing a stack of my father's invoices. She didn't look up, her expression remaining entirely smooth and unbothered as she turned a page. You took my identification from my private desk. Vivian, I said, placing my laptop directly over her invoices, showing the flashing gray access denied screen. You fabricated a corporate transfer, informed the platform's security system that you owned the brand, and registered my viral business pages under your own identity. Explain this right now. Vivian slowly set her pen down, leaning back in her chair with a chilling look of complete satisfaction. I simply registered a proper corporate entity to manage an unorganized asset running out of our home page. I used the household address, linked the page ownership to my new LLC, and updated the payout routing to a joint family management account. Your father's business needs immediate liquidity to clear a major fuel supplier debt this week, and your viral pages are generating thousands of dollars that belong to this household. You are 28, living at home and using our space. The pages are registered under my legal entity now. The system has already approved the identity verification, and your bank links are permanently unlinked. There is absolutely nothing you can do to change it. My father walked into the kitchen, looking exhausted and confused by the rising tension. What is going on here? Paige, why are you shouting at Vivian? Silas, please go back to your morning calls. Vivian interrupted smoothly, her voice oozing control. I am simply restructuring our domestic finances to ensure your company stays afloat. Paige is just having an emotional reaction to a standard business adjustment. I looked at my father, waiting for him to step in, but his silence told me everything I needed to know. He was too desperate for a financial lifeline to question the absolute theft occurring right under his nose. They both believed that because the digital platform had accepted the automated paperwork, the battle was already won. They had no idea that every digital action leaves an indelible, unalterable trail of data metadata. I walked out of the kitchen, went straight to my car, and locked myself inside the driver's seat. I didn't waste time crying, and I didn't engage in a useless shouting match with people who had abandoned their morality for cash flow. When someone uses an automated compliance system to misappropriate your identity, you don't fight them with emotion. You use the platform's highest level of corporate architecture to dismantle their fraudulent documentation. Drove directly to a local secure co-working space where I kept a secondary backup hard drive containing my business's entire historical operational footprint. As a digital creator, I knew that platform automation can be tricked by false paperwork in the short term, but human compliance directors at the corporate headquarters follow one absolute rule: unalterable metadata is king. I spent the next 4 hours assembling a massive, undeniable digital counteroffensive. First, I extracted the original video master files from my high-end mirrorless camera equipment spanning the last 3 years. Every single video file contained embedded EXCF data, digital timestamps, camera serial numbers matching my personal purchase receipts, and specific lens metadata that proved every single frame of content uploaded to Timeless Finds was captured by my physical hand long before Vivian even knew the page existed. Second, I pulled the original banking statements showing that every single dollar spent on Facebook and YouTube ad credits, inventory sourcing, and video editing software had originated from my private, independent checking account since day one. At 1 p.m., I used my secondary verified business account to launch an emergency, intellectual property, and identity hijack escalation ticket directly to the high-priority compliance queue at the platform's corporate headquarters. Because my brand had a high follower count and was actively generating revenue, my case was instantly flagged for manual human review by a senior risk analyst based in California. This is Paige, the original founder and sole content director of Timeless Finds, I wrote in my formal sworn affidavit. On May 30th, a third-party domestic occupant used unauthorized physical access to my personal tax documents to execute a fraudulent corporate transfer. I am attaching the original XIF video metadata, camera serial numbers, historical bank tracking files, and a certified copy of my business license showing that the recently registered LLC, Vivian Sterling Holdings, is an entirely fraudulent entity committing digital conversion of property. By 3:30 p.m., the compliance analyst responded, confirming that an emergency administrative freeze had been placed on the page's entire payout architecture. Vivian's newly linked bank account was instantly blocked from receiving a single dime of the upcoming June revenue distribution. The system was now locked down under a manual ownership dispute, and the platform required both parties to submit notarized corporate declarations within 24 hours to prove legal title. The trap was set, and Vivian was about to walk right into a legal buzzsaw. I returned to the house at 5 p.m., my expression perfectly calm, collected, and precise. When I walked through the front door, the atmosphere in the living room was incredibly tense. Vivian was pacing back and forth near the sofa, holding her smartphone to her ear, her face visibly flushed with a mixture of panic and confusion. My father was sitting at the dining table, staring blankly at his logistics spreadsheets. Yes, but why is the merchant portal showing a restricted status? Vivian snapped into the phone, her voice cracking with desperation. I am the sole legal owner of the registered LLC. The funds are supposed to be transferred into our corporate bank account by tomorrow morning. What do you mean the distribution is under an administrative holds queue? She hung up the phone violently, turning her eyes toward me the moment she heard my car keys hit the entryway table. What did you do, Paige? Vivian demanded, marching toward me, her heels clicking loudly against the hardwood floor. I just received an automated notice from the business portal stating that our entire corporate account has been flagged for fraudulent activity and all revenue distributions are completely frozen. My bank tells me the transaction is blocked at the platform level. I stood my ground, looking down at her with an unshakable, quiet confidence. I didn't do anything but tell the absolute truth to the corporate platform compliance department. Vivian, you thought that by registering a cheap LLC and changing a bank link online, you could legally steal 3 years of my intellectual property. But you forgot one critical detail. You don't own the camera equipment, you don't own the raw video files, and you don't possess the digital metadata that matches the content history. You are a child living in my house, Vivian shouted, her composure completely shattering as she realized her financial lifelines were vanishing. That digital page is running out of our garage. That makes it household property. Your father's company is going to lose its primary fuel line contract tomorrow morning if we don't clear that debt. You are ruining this entire family over a stupid internet page. No, Vivian. You ruined your own standing the moment you chose to commit corporate identity fraud under this roof, I replied, my voice remaining perfectly steady, dropping to a dangerous, icy whisper. The platform compliance department has already reviewed my original XIF camera data and purchase logs. They have given us exactly 24 hours to submit notarized ownership affidavits. If you submit a false notarized statement claiming you created that content, it moves from a platform dispute into a federal felony for perjury and mail fraud. My corporate lawyer is drafting the formal cease and desist orders right now. My father stood up from the table, his voice shaking as he looked between us. Vivian, is this true? Did you use her personal identity cards without her consent? You told me Paige had agreed to merge the accounts to help the logistics firm. Vivian looked at my father, then looked at the legal documents printing out from my portable wireless printer on the side table. For the first time since she had entered our lives, the arrogance completely drained from her face, replaced by the stark, terrifying realization that her calculated plan had utterly collapsed. The next 48 hours were a masterclass in swift, clinical accountability. liability. Realizing that pursuing the platform dispute would expose her to severe legal liability for document misappropriation and corporate fraud, Vivian's defense completely shattered. By 11 a.m. the following morning, her personal corporate attorney contacted my representative with a formal settlement offer. To avoid an escalation to local law enforcement or an official state investigation into her newly formed LLC, Vivian signed a binding total relinquishment of all digital claims. She officially withdrew her fraudulent application from the platform's rights manager database, closed the Vivian Sterling Holdings LLC, and signed a legally binding non-disclosure and non-interference agreement regarding my brand. The platform's compliance team processed the signed legal withdrawal within hours. By June 4th, my full administrator credentials were fully restored. My independent business tax file was relinked, and my secure personal bank account was established as the sole, unalterable destination for all past and future monetization revenue. The June payout cleared into my account at midnight, entirely intact and entirely secure, but the domestic fallout was absolute. My father, finally forced to confront the depth of Vivian's deception and how her actions had nearly destroyed his daughter's life, realized that his marriage was built on a foundation of absolute manipulation. The trust was completely gone. That weekend, while Vivian was out of the house attempting to negotiate a personal loan from her own relatives, my father sat down with me in the empty garage. His eyes were red, and he looked smaller than he ever had before. "Paige, I am so deeply sorry," he whispered, looking at the floor. "I let my financial stress blind me to what she was doing to you under my own roof. I should have protected your mother's memory, and I should have protected your hard work. You have to make your own choices now, Dad," I said gently, but with firm, unyielding boundaries. "But I cannot stay here any longer. My store lease is finalized, and my inventory is moving out tomorrow morning." On June 5th, 2026, I signed the final paperwork for a beautiful, brick-and-mortar vintage storefront in the heart of the city's design district. I hired a local professional moving team, packed every piece of mid-century fashion, every antique wardrobe, and every camera kit from the family garage, and left the house for good, entering a future that was entirely my own. It has been 6 months since the morning my creator dashboard turned gray, and my life has entered a chapter of unprecedented growth, peace, and absolute sovereignty. My physical storefront, Timeless Finds, has become a premier cultural destination in the metropolitan area. The integration of a brick-and-mortar boutique with my viral long-form video content has caused my business revenue to more than triple. My Facebook and YouTube channels are fully verified, completely secure, and protected by multi-factor hardware security keys that never leave my physical possession. I have hired 2 full-time assistants to manage our shipping logistics and fabric restoration lab, allowing me to focus entirely on my creative passion. My father filed for a formal legal separation from Vivian 3 months ago, after an independent audit of his construction logistics firm revealed she had been secretly mismanaging his corporate credit lines for over a year. Vivian was forced to move back into a small rental apartment in her hometown, her reputation completely ruined among our local social circles, and her fraudulent holdings company completely dissolved by the state registry. Yesterday evening, after closing the boutique for the day, I sat at the beautiful oak desk in my private office at the back of the store. The showroom outside was immaculate, filled with beautifully lit displays of restored history, timeless style, and elegant craftsmanship. I pulled up my Creator Studio app to review the final analytics for our latest video documentary series. The subscriber counter clicked past 400,000 followers, and a fresh comment from a young designer popped up on the screen. "Thank you for showing us that with enough passion and dedication, you can build your own empire from nothing," I smiled, closing my laptop and locking my desk drawer. I lost my childhood home and exposed a toxic relationship under my family's roof, but I saved my identity, my creative legacy, and my independence. True family doesn't look at your hard-earned success as a resource to be harvested for their comfort. True family provides the support for you to build your own foundation. My boundaries are ironclad. My digital assets are completely secure, and my story is being written beautifully, independently and exclusively by me.